Man is not made for defeat. A man can be destroyed but not defeated, by Ernest Hemingway. So that's where I want to begin today. Because if you understand that quote, you already understand what it means to be a fighter. People see us get broken down in training, bloodied in the cage, pushed to the limit in life, and they think that's defeat. But it's not. Destruction isn't defeat. Defeat only happens when you give in and you quit. And that's the difference between how society views fighters and who we really are. What's up, everybody? It's Johnson Black Lightning Nasona here. And I want to take you for the next hour or so to just talk with you. Sit here face to face, no script, no polish, no edits, just real, raw talk about how society sees fighters and how different that picture is from the reality we live every single day. When most people think of fighters, they think of violence, do you not? They think of aggression, they think of chaos and destruction. They think we're people who just want to hurt someone. That's the image that society carries, in my own words. I mean, they see the walkouts, the blood, the highlight reels, the knockouts. They take those 10 minutes under the lights and they think that defines us. But the truth is, those 10 minutes don't define a fighter. What defines a fighter is the years of discipline no one sees. The 5 a.m. runs, the late nights after work, the endless drilling of the same move. Just drilling the same move 1,000 times until it feels like breathing. The truth is, fighters aren't violent people. We're disciplined people who've learned how to control violence instead of being controlled by it. See, violence doesn't define a fighter, discipline does. Now, let me bring this closer to home. See, I live and train in Seattle, and Seattle has a reputation. People call it the Seattle Freeze. For those who don't know what that means, people here are polite but distant. They'll nod, they'll smile, they'll say, "Have a nice day," but keep to themselves. See, it's a culture of avoidance. People avoid connection, people avoid confrontation, people avoid conflict. See, Seattle avoids conflict in the same way most people avoid growth, politely, quietly, but completely. And that's where being a fighter is the exact opposite, because fighters don't get to avoid conflict. We live in it. We choose it. We put ourselves into situations where someone is literally trying to choke us, punch us, or break us down. And instead of running, we lean into it. That's why I always say Jiu-Jitsu is one of the purest mirrors of life. When you step on the mat, ego dies fast. You're going to get crushed. You're going to tap out. You're going to feel helpless. And in that helplessness, you face yourself. Do you panic or do you breathe? Do you quit or do you learn? See, ego dies fast on the mat. And if it doesn't, you won't last in life either. Now, compare that to Seattle's culture of progressivism. Now, from there's tolerance and peace. Don't get me wrong, those values matter. Compassion, kindness, inclusion, all of that matters. But here's where it gets tricky. Sometimes peace becomes passivism. Sometimes compassion becomes fragility. True peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the ability to stay calm inside of it. That's the reality fighters learn every day. We don't avoid pressure. We train under it until pressure becomes normal. We don't run from fear. We face it until it loses power. Seattle also prides itself on sustainability and do no harm values. Protecting nature minimizes footprints, avoiding destruction, And in theory, that's beautiful. But when it comes to human growth, avoiding all struggle doesn't work. You don't grow by staying untouched. You don't grow by staying safe. Here's a quote that kind of aligns with that, because you don't grow by staying safe. But within this quote itself, it goes like, so the tree that survives the storm isn't the one that avoided the wind. It's the one that bent, that broke, that grew stronger through the chaos. See, that's fighting in a nutshell. That's Jiu-Jitsu. That's MMA. Pressure, storm, chaos, and growth. That all only comes by walking straight into it. Now, let me drop another quote here by Marcus Aurelius, the famous Stoic philosopher. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's also fighting. That's Jiu-Jitsu. That's MMA. I can't control my opponent. I can't control if he comes fast, if he comes strong, if he tries to take me down or knock me out. But I can control my breath. I can control my discipline. I can control my composure. And that's why fighters survive in chaos. See, society looks at chaos and panics. Fighters look at chaos and breathe. Now let's swing back to Seattle again. Because on one hand, the city is passive, polite, but distant. On the other hand, it's full of activism. People march, people rally, people stand up for a cause. That shows me something. It's not that Seattle is weak itself. It's that Seattle chooses its conflicts differently. They'll avoid confrontation in the coffee shop, but they'll fight with signs in the street. Activists and fighters actually share something. We both step into arenas most people avoid. The difference is activists use voices and sometimes anyways, but fighters use bodies. And I respect that, but here's the reality. Activism without discipline fades fast, and fighting without control is just chaos. The balance is what matters. That's what society doesn't see when they look at us. They see chaos, but what they're really watching is balance in motion. Now, let me leave you with another quote to think about. See, Bruce Lee once said, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." See, that's it right there. Fighters don't pray for easy fights. At least most don't. Fighters don't ask for comfort. At least most don't. We embrace the difficult path. And that's why when society misunderstands us, when they call us violent, reckless, crazy, it doesn't matter. Because we already know who we are. See, we're not violent men or women. We're calm men and women who've mastered the violence inside of us. And that's within part one. Now we're just going to walk into part two that ties into this. I think you guys are going to like this one. So I want you to sit with that past idea. The fighter you see in the cage isn't reckless. He's disciplined. He's structured. He's trained in chaos until chaos looks like peace. See, that's not violence. That's mastery. As long as we acknowledge that and see that, then we get to fully understand the fighter that you see in person, and also to understand them just a little bit more inside. See, this is another quote that I do like. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's a triumph over. Can you guess who said that one? It's It's by Nelson Mandela. See, that's how I'd like to start within the second part, because that's the clearest way to explain what fighters live every single day, attached to that previous session that we had just discussed. See, people think fighters don't feel fear, but we do. They think we're built different, fearless, maybe even heartless. But that's not true. See, fighters feel fear deeply. The difference is we don't run from it. We step into it until it breaks down. See, most people in society live their whole lives avoiding fear. They structure their days around comfort, around safety, around routine that doesn't push them too far at all from their daily norm. But as fighters, we wake up and walk straight into fear on purpose. See, the average person hides from fear, the average person hides from fear. Fighters train with it until it becomes familiar. Now, let's tie this back to Seattle. Seattle is a city. Seattle is a city that prides itself on peace, on compassion, on nonviolence. And there's beauty in that. Nobody wants to live in chaos. But here's the danger: when peace becomes passivity, people lose the ability to handle real pressure. They think avoiding conflict is strength, but it's really not. See, avoiding conflict builds. I don't want to say that. Avoiding conflict builds fragility, not resilience. See, peace without strength is just weakness dressed up in kind words. See, I've seen it in training. I've seen it in life. The guys who've never been punched in the face panics the first time he gets hit. The guy who's been choked in training loses his mind when pressure's on his neck. And that's exactly what happens in life. See, the person who's never faced hardship crumbles when life finally squeezes them. That's why Jiu-Jitsu and MMA connect to life so strongly, because they're practice grounds for fear. They're controlled chaos. See, they're training sessions where you learn that fear doesn't have to own you. See, the man who learns to breathe under pressure in the gym becomes the man who can breathe under pressure in life. Now let's bring in another quote of mine from Marcus Aurelius, of course. He states, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to evoke at any moment." See, that's what fighters live by. The nerves before a fight are real. The shaking hands, the racing thoughts. But even within having the shaking hands and the racing thoughts, the nerves themselves aren't the problem. The problem is how you look at them. Do you see nerves as weaknesses? Or do you see them as energy, as fuel, as proof that you're just alive and you're ready? See, fighters don't erase fear. I'd like to think we redefine it until it starts to work for us. See, now here's the Seattle contrast again. The city's full of introverts. People keep to themselves. They avoid confrontations, stay in small circles. They avoid the spotlight and avoid the rawness of conflict. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's also why fighters stand out so much here. Because we're the opposite. We step in the cage under the bright lights where everything is exposed. We live in the front of the world when we're at our most vulnerable. See, Seattle hides in silence. Fighters grow in exposure. Now I want to talk about society as a large. Because fighters have always been misunderstood, from gladiators in ancient Rome to samurais in Japan to boxers here in America. Society loves to watch the fight, but rarely loves the fighter. See, people cheer the blood, the people cheer the blood, but not the fear. Wait, people cheer the blood, but fear the man who bleeds. Yeah, people cheer the blood, but fear the man who bleeds. They want the entertainment, but they don't want to face the discipline it takes to create it. They'll call fighters reckless, dumb, or violent, but deep down, I like to really think they just admire us and are afraid to admit it. Because, I mean, how can you not? See, they're afraid to admire us because we live the battles they avoid on a daily basis. And let's be clear. Fighters aren't. Oh, let me go back. They admire us because we live the battles they avoid. Now, that's something to consider. What battles do you avoid? Like, on that aspect of it, if you truly believe that you are a fighter and you want to be a fighter, because a lot of fighters themselves, like, we avoid our own internal battles. But what battles in your daily life do you consistently avoid that you think that you can actually overcome if you take the necessary steps and start to view it not as something that's bigger than it actually truly is, that you can overcome just by taking little chips at it? Just process that, put it in your mind, use it for tomorrow. But so let's be clear, fighters aren't perfect. We make mistakes, we have flaws, we're human. But here's the truth. Fighters are willing to put their humanity on the line in public. We're willing to risk loss, humiliation, and pain in front of the world. And most people never do that once in their lives. See, the fighter lives in public what most people hide in private. Ain't that the truth? So now let's go back to Jiu-Jitsu for just a second. Because if MMA is the big picture, Jiu-Jitsu is the detailed work. See, in Jiu-Jitsu, you don't just learn submissions. You learn patience. You learn to slow down chaos. You learn that sometimes the smartest move isn't to wait, to breathe, to adjust an inch at a time. See, Jiu-Jitsu is the art of survival, or the Jiu-Jitsu is the art of surviving today so you can win tomorrow. Let's process that again. Jiu-Jitsu is the art of surviving today so you can win tomorrow. That's the part society doesn't see. See, as they think fighters are just about brute force, but real fighters, no, it's all about finesse. It's checkers. Or people view it as checkers if they're watching from the outside, but internally in the cage, it's chess, not checkers. As the more advanced you get, the more you start to realize it's not about this move right now, it's about 10 moves down the line. But also, if you think about it, it's about the smallest detail if you compare it to chess. Like, about the smallest details done under the biggest of pressure. And see, when we view it in that aspect of it and bringing it back to Seattle itself, I'd like to say within, this is all me, of course, that Seattle's culture avoids that kind of raw conflict and decisions and just being decisive in some ways. But when we do place it in those words, it's losing my words here. See, Seattle also prides itself on activism, of course, as we talked about before, on standing up for causes. And I mean, on top of that, here's the thing. You know, I do respect people who do have a true meaning, or not meaning, but a cause or something that they feel so strongly about that they're willing to fight for it because it is it is what they represent. But on top of that, their soul group that they want to not be placed on the back burner, to be known and to be seen. So upon that respect aspect of it, I mean, it's, I'm gonna go back a second before I go on, continue rambling. Let's see. See, activists in their own way and fighters aren't really that different. We both, of course, we step in our own arenas, but in the same place, in the same location. Not same location, but in the same area. But within the same arenas that most people avoid that. We stay in the same arenas that most people avoid. But there is a key difference. Trying to get my thought process back. All right. There is a key difference. But here's another quote of mine that I do like a lot. The fighter's arena is unforgiving. The fighter's arena is unforgiving. There's no speech that can save you, no crowd that can carry you. It's just you, your preparation, and the truth. And that's why fighters grow so fast. I mean, because our feedback loop is brutal. Either you trained enough or you didn't. Either you were calm or you panicked. Either you faced your fear or it ate you alive. That last part, I love it. Either you faced your fear or it ate you alive. See, society doesn't get that. Within that aspect of it, Seattle doesn't get that. They see the surface, the knockout, the choke, the chaos, and they call it violence. I mean, it is some sort of violence, but controlled violence. But we see the truth. And see, the truth is fighting. The truth is fighting is the discipline. Fighting is peace built through chaos. Here's an old proverb, Japanese proverb, I guess. Not sure where it originated from, but I've always stated this a lot. I'd much rather be a warrior on a farm than a farmer at war. I'd much rather be a warrior on a farm than a farmer at war. But let me close this out for you guys. So here's another one of Bruce Lee's quotes also. It's the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. On top of that, the successful warrior is the average man that has laser-like focus. See, that's it. As we all know, Bruce Lee truly knew what the definition of a fighter and internal peace was, and how to relinquish that into a form of controlled understanding of oneself and truly being able to flow with that on a daily basis in life, internally and externally. Let's see, I myself and a lot of fighters, we aren't superhuman. We're not fearless. We're not monsters. We're average men and women who choose discipline, who choose to focus fear and face it, who choose to step into the arena when society tells us to sit down. See, society sees us as violent, but the truth is we're the most peaceful people you'll ever meet. Because we've already fought ourselves and we've already won. And that's what I want you to take from all of this. Don't judge fighters by blood you see. Judge us by the discipline you don't see. And that's the real story. See, that's who we are. And to end it with this last words, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over it. Do you remember who that was from? It's by Nelson Mandela. And And that's how I wanted to start this second part,